Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Gardener, and thank you for listening. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's January 5th. Today we celebrate an iconic tree of England, a holy tree with biblical and cultural significance. We'll also learn about a botanist whose last name is similar to the surname of Carl Linnaeus's in-laws, and that caused some confusion over the years. We'll take a look back at some unflattering words about the winter garden from a man who was a close personal friend of Nathaniel Hawthorne. We'll hear a little secret to making hyacinths look fabulous when forcing hyacinth bulbs indoors. And we grow that garden library today with one of my favorite books, and it's part of a new set that features garden poetry. And then we'll wrap things up with the wassailing of apple trees, a delightful ceremony that takes place on the 12th night of Christmas, and that would be tonight. But first, I'd like to take a second to tell you about the Daily Gardener Friday newsletter. Every Friday, I send out the Daily Gardener newsletter, and it shows up as an email in your inbox. The newsletter is something I put together every week, and it has some very lovely content that I put together just for you. I'd like to start out the newsletter with some personal photos and updates, a little bit about what's going on around here in my own home and garden, with the hope that it inspires you and gets you thinking about your own space and garden in new and exciting ways. Then I like to include some garden to-dos and creative resources, as well as little reminders for the month. And I'm a shopper, so I love sharing deals that I find with listeners of the show. And if you're a fan of the show, you'll also notice some favorite aspects from the podcast to help you get through the weekend. You'll see a little botanical history, some botanical poetry, of course, and a lovely list of all the featured books from the Grow That Garden library for the week. So handy. And I like to say, if you enjoy the podcast, you're going to love the newsletter. So head on over to thedailygardener.org and sign up for the free Friday newsletter today. Here's today's curated news. Today, I'm featuring a post that I saw in Better Homes and Gardens, and the title caught my attention because it says, How to Make a White Berry Wreath. And they are so beautiful, and they go perfectly with the farmhouse theme that's so popular right now. Now, oftentimes, you'll see a white berry wreath featured in fall decor, but I think it's perfect in the spring as well. It's light and white and cheery. So go ahead and check out this article. You can find it in the Facebook group for the show. Just head on over to the free Facebook group, the Daily Gardener Community, and search for the word wreath. And this post will pop up. So if you'd like to do that, there's no need for you to take notes or search for links or have to track down this post on how to make a white berry wreath. All you need to do is the next time you're on Facebook, just search for Daily Gardener Community, where you'd search for a friend and request to join. I'd love to meet you in the group. Here's today's brevities. It was on this day, January 5th, in 1786, that a winter-blooming hawthorn, the iconic Glastonbury thorn, blossomed. In all previous years, the beautiful Glastonbury thorn, Crataegus monagea, had flowered on Christmas Day. But by 1786, Britain had adopted the Gregorian calendar, and that affected the bloom time. And so that year, the tree bloomed 11 days past schedule. Unlike other hawthorns, the Glastonbury thorn miraculously flowers twice a year. The first bloom occurs in winter around Christmas time, which is why it has always been considered sacred. And the second flush occurs in spring around Easter, hence the name by flora. And every Christmas, a budded branch is sent to the queen. Legend has it that the original plant, widely called the holy thorn, was planted in Somerset more than 2,000 years ago by the uncle of Jesus Christ, Joseph of Arimathea. And so the legend goes that after the crucifixion, Joseph visited the area and pushed his walking staff into the ground, where it rooted and became the holy thorn. In 1986, the Glastonbury thorn was featured on a beautiful Christmas stamp. But the recent history of the tree is not so happy. In 2010, vandals removed almost every branch from the Glastonbury thorn. Thankfully, Kew's Arboretum team arrived just in time to take cuttings from some of the damaged branches. With the help of these skilled arborists, the mother tree was replaced, and sister trees were planted in other secret locations throughout England. And today is the anniversary of the death of the English academic, attorney, politician, and gardener who sat in the House of Commons, Robert Moore. He died on this day, January 5th, in 1780. A passionate amateur botanist, the botanist Philip Miller named the plant genus Morea in honor of Robert Moore. But later, Carl Linnaeus altered the spelling to Moraea to honor his wife's maiden name. And in 1803, the Belgian painter Pierre-Joseph Rodute created one of the most beautiful early illustrations of Morea. Morea is a rare and delicate plant in the iris family. Moreas are not as hardy as the common iris, and instead of growing from rhizomes or bulbs, Moreas grow from corms. Unlike bulbs, corms are a little different because they don't have a bulb's layered scales. Corms produce little cormlets that can be broken away from the parent plant for propagation. Familiar plants that grow from corms include gladiolas and crocus. Like bulbs, corms thrive in nutrient-rich, well-draining soil. Most corm perennials prefer sunny locations, and when you plant them, make sure to plant them with the pointed side up at a depth of about 4 times the size of the corm. It's a good rule of thumb. And in case you're wondering, you can find Morea in some specialty bulb catalogs. And it was on this day, January 5th, in 1874, that the English merchant and author Henry Arthur Bright recorded a rather bleak comment about winter gardens in his famous book called Year in a Lancashire Garden. Here's what he wrote. A winter garden is generally nothing more than a garden of small evergreens, which of course is an improvement on bare soil, but which is in itself not singularly interesting. In Unearthed Words, today's words are from a Victorian flower dictionary by Mandy Kirby, one of my favorite authors. She's a gardener and garden writer. Here's what she wrote. The January 1860 garden column of the famous fashion magazine, The New Monthly Belle Assembly, recommended the hyacinth bottle and flower support as being ideal for growing hyacinths indoors. The slender bottle with bulbous base was nothing new. Hyacinths were often grown in water, not soil, in these small vases, which usually came in a variety of colors, from cranberry red to cobalt blue. But the supporting wire was an innovation designed to support the stem with its heavy bloom and keep it all neat and tidy. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, A Nature Poem for Every Day of the Year by Jane Hunter. This book came out in 2018, and it's one of my favorite books, truly is. In this book, Jane has selected 365 of the most beautiful poems ever written. From William Wordsworth's Springtime Daffodils and Christina Rossetti's Birdsong to John Keats' Autumnal Odes and Longfellow's Woods in Winter, these poems pay tribute to the beauty of nature and the changing seasons. And believe it or not, I usually carry this beautiful book around in my backpack, and I refer to it all the time. This book is 496 pages of inspiring poems about the natural world, and it's curated for every day of the year. You can get a copy of A Nature Poem for Every Day of the Year by Jane Hunter and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for around $16. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. In England tonight, there's an ancient custom, an old pagan ritual that involves waking up the apple cider trees with wassailing on the 12th night of Christmas. The written folklore around wassailing says that if you wassail apple trees on January 5th, the 12th day after Christmas, you'll reap a bountiful harvest in the year. Apples fall under the rose family, which also includes other fruits like peaches, pears, plums, and cherries. Now, cider apples are not great eating apples. They tend to be small, not especially attractive, and they're bittersweet, which may be why Benjamin Franklin famously said, "It's bad to eat apples. It's better to turn them all into cider." And if you've ever bobbed for apples and wondered why apples float, it's because they're made up of 25% air. Thus, it takes roughly 36 apples to make a single gallon of apple cider. And do you store your apples in a bowl on the table? If so, bear in mind that apples can ripen up to 10 times faster when stored at room temperature instead of being kept in the fridge. And although it takes most apple trees on average 4 to 5 years to produce fruit, an average tree yields 840 pounds of fruit once they start producing. Now, wassail means good health, and by wassailing the trees, you're wishing them good tree health, fertility, and productivity. Tonight's wassail tradition involves many elements. There's someone dressed as a green man, a man of the earth, who usually leads the festivities. Then there's the crowning of a king and queen of the wassail. And then the king and queen lead the wassailers to the orchard or to a special apple tree. And once they reach the tree, cider is poured on the soil around the tree. It's a symbolic return of the fruit's blessing. Then bread is dipped in cider and left on the branches for the robins and other creatures in nature. And then finally, they toast the tree with a traditional song that ends in a chant that goes like this: "Old apple tree, we wassail thee, and hope that thou wilt bear hatfuls, capfuls, 3 bushel bagfuls, and a little heap under the stairs." Then there's the clanging of pots and pans, hooting and hollering, and shooting off of cap guns and shotguns to scare away all the evil spirits. It's the final step in a thorough wassail of an apple tree. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced in lovely Wyoming, Minnesota with the help of Paige Mance, Brooke Bierbaum, Kiana Rayleigh, Maddie Doyle, Natalie Decker, and Eric Begay. You can find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media. You can follow the show on Instagram, and listeners always have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for the show. Just search for Daily Gardener Community the next time you're on Facebook and request to join. All the stories and books that are featured on the show can be found over at thedailygardener.org, thedailygardener.org. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for my free Friday newsletter. Last but not least, you can share your own gardener greetings on the show by emailing me at jennifer@thedailygardener.org. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and as always, have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.